Hi, everybody. I'm Brad Turner, CEO of EditShare. I'm here with Barrett, our head of development for our systems business. We are just back from NAB. We had a great 4 days on the floor talking about our innovations and what we're up to. But importantly, we got to hear what everybody else was up to and develop a perspective on the industry and how we fit into it, which I think is fun. We've got some stuff to talk about today. What'd you think about the show? There was, I'd say the big things this year were obviously AI everywhere. Everybody's talking about AI, talking about the creator economy. We're talking about on the technology side, more on the technology side about hybrid. People want to have their stuff on the cloud or they want it to be on premise. How's that going to work? I don't know. What'd you think? What stuck out to you?
You go into the show and it's just everything about AI, right? And it's a different feeling this year because, AI was very present last year. But this year we're finding it a little bit more specific, right? It's not about whether or not we have to adopt. We definitely have to adopt. AI is here. We're using it. It's how the industry is figuring out ways to make it more practical for folks. That was a big step for me.
I'll talk about a little bit. The practical thing is interesting. Talk about that a little bit more about, what you see as practical stuff versus, that's nice, but it's kind of an experiment. It's not actually going to make anyone's production or post-production workflow anytime soon.
Well, specifically in media and entertainment, right? I mean, folks shy away from AI, especially the creatives, because we think it's going to ruin me or it's going to replace me. We at EditShare certainly don't feel that way, and we want to create things that are supported, things that work naturally with your workflow, right? So we are more about analytical AI, and I think that is a great fit, right? Because we all have the hard job of coming to work every day, and you want to do the right things, right? So things that were important for MAM in the past were, you got to get your logging right, you got to get your metadata right so that you can go back and find these videos and things like that, your B-roll. I think today with AI, it's very helpful to the creative, right? Because look, I'm getting older. I'll speak for myself, and I'm very forgetful. So having something log for me and then jog my memory or be able to find things quicker, these are the things that kind of work, right? So I like our practical approach to how AI is being rolled out.
Yeah, so our practical approach, just for listeners out there, is processing video using an AI engine to do speech to text, facial detection, logo detection, shot detection. It's all the sort of unsexy practical stuff that saves hours, but which we think if anything's going to take off, this is going to take off. But is there anything else out there that might be interesting, or maybe is like the most out there in terms of AI that you saw?
Well, I mean, listen, it's all around us, and I think as you look across the industry, no matter what corner you go into, there's going to be AI something, and people are using it in ways that I could never imagine. But I don't know. I like our approach. We're not getting in the way. We're purposely staying out of the generative space, right? To make sure that we're protecting, creatives.
Yeah. Although I do think there is a lot of stuff happening in editorial, like what I would call within the editorial and the editing side of doing things using AI, like filling in a scene or dubbing or that sort of thing, that AI can, there's some practical stuff there that I guess you could call generative, like background fill, like automating tasks and stuff that editors have done for a while, and these are embedded within the NLEs.
Sure, but that's the everyday stuff you want done for you, right? Because you think about any prominent thing that happened in your life, whether it's a birthday party, you can remember things around that scene. You might not remember the date, right? So you can't search for the date. You probably didn't label the event, but you knew that there was a church in the scene. You knew that it was a nice day or it was snowy, right? And all of these things that AI can pick up and, embed and enrich that data with are now things that you can search on naturally.
Yeah, totally great. I did see some pretty cool stuff, but I also have to admit I was spending a lot of time at our booth. The generative stuff is pretty impressive. Obviously, there's huge levels of friction of getting that adopted. Some of it is, are the studios just going to force some of this generative stuff? I saw commercials the other day for a Ford that had generative AI shots in it, right? In the car commercial. So I think it's, long form, it's still early days, but short form, it's already finding its way in. So we'll see. We'll see how fast that takes off. And obviously that puts all sorts of pressure on agencies and studios. So I think we're just at the beginning of all this stuff. Yeah, so NAB was interesting. I mean, they say, total registrations are flat to up, but my guess is total attendance on the floor is probably down because of international. Fewer people traveling internationally. We had good quality traffic on the booth, but I'd say overall sort of total scans were down, and also the mix of people has skewed more toward creatives, right? Individual creatives in the content creator economy, right? So these are folks that, well, look, you and I talk about this all the time, like YouTube's exploding, right? Everybody is watching YouTube. More and more minutes are on YouTube, and all these producers, some percentage of them are growing up and trying to figure out how to do their production faster, better, cheaper. And so I think we're seeing more of those folks show up on the floor. What do you think?
Yeah, it's the new it, right? I mean, I think every household has a content creator in it, right? I know I have two girls and, they profess to be content creators. I will admit that I get a lot of my, entertainment and education through YouTube, right? So I certainly appreciate the content creators, right? So, as we walk the show floors, right, we see more content creators showing up. And I've always questioned, what's industry going to do for these content creators, right? We're not all at the level of a Mr. Beast, right? But we have a lot of content creators out there that I think will need services, and we need to plug them into ecosystems that are sustainable.
Right. Yes. Well, look, part of our strategy is getting those individual content creators with tools like Media Silo, it's a cloud first, much better, substitute for Frame.io, right? And getting that integrated into our core, edit share file system and all of our core workflow, getting those products integrated together so that they can start one of our products and then over time, migrate onto an on-premise server, right? Which is still the fastest, most predictable way to edit. But there's also going to be editors who never want to have infrastructure, right? Never want to do any of that stuff. And I think that there's good solutions that are coming out there that have already shown that they're viable, that are in that content creator side, like Lucid Link and Sweet Studio is an up-and-comer, right? So I think we need to play in that we need to support that environment. We need to play in that environment, and it'll be interesting times over the coming months and years to see how the high-speed editorial space in particular, based on the cloud is what I'm saying, just purely based on the cloud, will develop.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. We obviously play in both, right? But, how do you see the landscape changing? Do you think that a lot of stuff will be stored in cloud or on premise? Obviously we have solutions for both. Where do you think the world's headed?
Yeah, I think that people are still moving content that needs to be archived or that is less sort of hot en masse to the cloud, to lower cost storage. The data says that it's still growing while the overall media technology space is kind of flattish. Fortunately, we're still growing in that environment. I also, I think the cloud repatriation is real, and that people are saying, all right, the new stuff, I don't think I'm going to put it on the cloud, and maybe some of this other stuff I'll actually take down to get my bill down. But I think in aggregate net, like usage of the cloud, whether it's as storage or it's supporting workflow infrastructure, cloud hosted apps, which therefore all of them have storage attached to them by their very nature, it's still growing, right? And I think that's being driven by the content creators. I think that's growing at a faster rate than on premise. And what I mean is spending, because on premise just keeps getting more and more dense. The storage just gets so dense and capable. Like you can put so much more on a terabyte on a hard drive, because it's 6 petabyte drive or 6 terabyte drive, than you could even 5 years ago. And so the storage is just becoming very, very dense. So the revenues aren't going up as fast. That's because it's just more cost effective. So I think you're going to continue to see the growth of both on-premise and cloud because so much storage is growing, but cloud is the dollar spending will grow.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they're both here to stay, right? I think, what I like to say is cloud for convenience. So, remote editing workflows are great out of the cloud, right? As long as you have the performance to be able to do so. File sharing, things like that. When you have security and VPNs and getting into, the brick and mortar, it can tend to be harder, right? So the cloud is going to definitely stay there for convenience, but what we're seeing is that you can't put all your data in the cloud. It becomes very expensive, as you say, right? Sure. So we need a landing spot for those terabytes or petabytes even of information. Certainly our clients have petabytes on disk. They have petabytes, in archive, right? So there's still a lot of data on premise. The question is, what is the right mix and when do I move to the cloud?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's very much an economic decision. As people get more sophisticated with their knowledge of the cloud and they start looking at the bill, they go, oh man, do I really need to have this workflow in the cloud or can I do it more cost effectively, right? And so, people are just getting smarter about total cost of ownership. Some are even building models and, thinking about ROI one versus the other. And I just think we need to flex with the market as they want more articulation of, hey, this is a good return on my investment. Like we need to adapt to be able to do that and help them make those decisions. I think it's fair to say that technology vendors in our space haven't been great at, helping our customers with total cost of ownership and ROI decisions. And I think they're looking to us to do more of that going forward.
For sure. And, as we think about this creator economy, right? You have someone up and coming, they may be a soloist or they may have 4 or 5 people around them. Spend is going to be important. They're going to want, a service that caters to their needs, performs as expected and delivers the feature set that's needed to get their product out.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think the creators are learning that there's an expensive way to do things and a cheap way to do things. And it is interesting, especially on the editing side, that, Adobe's getting picked at. There's threats, right, to its business model because they're getting hit by all these different cloud apps that just do one specific things, or it's a lightweight editor, or it's storage or whatever it is. It's easier to do the job that Adobe is doing if you're willing to put the time and effort into doing those things. So definitely interesting times in terms of business models. Again, as AI comes in, as people figure out cloud, people find innovators, technology companies find ways to innovate around problems. Yeah, you're just seeing this explosion in the ecosystem of tools to use, and sometimes it's just overwhelming.
Well, I think, that's great conversation, Brad. Thanks for meeting with me today. We survived another show. I'm looking forward to the future here. I just want to thank everybody who came out to the booth, had great conversations, and, looking forward to follow up and, doing business with you in the future. And I'm very excited about AI and to see where the industry is going to be headed. But for sure, we're going to be part of it. This is us. We're EditShare.